Before you brush this off as fear-based content, superstition, or coincidence, let me say this carefully and responsibly. February Fard is not a normal night, and I say that as someone who once helped prepare for nights like this. When I was involved in witchcraft, we didn't treat every date the same. Most nights were ordinary, predictable, routine, but a few were pre-marked, not because of astrology hype or public rituals, but because of spiritual timing. February Fard was one of those nights. You won't see it trending. You won't hear alarms. You won't feel panic in the air. What you'll feel, if you're sensitive, is something far quieter and more unsettling. Pressure without explanation, restlessness, heavy sleep, sudden spiritual dullness, disrupted dreams, a strange urge to withdraw, postpone, or deal with things later. That's not random. In the occult, we understood something most people never consider. Certain nights are used to reset pressure, not to attack loudly. These nights are about sealing delays, reinforcing discouragement, and targeting people who are already close to movement, especially believers, especially those who started the year with clarity and are now stepping into execution. I remember sitting in gatherings where the instruction was not, do something dramatic. It was, release weight. Let them slow themselves. No confrontation, no chaos, just atmosphere. And here's the part that matters most. Nights like February Fard don't feel evil. They feel tiring, ordinary, easy to ignore. That's why they work. I'm speaking now because I left that system. I broke covenant. And once you've seen how timing is used, you recognize the signs, not with fear, but with understanding. This message is not here to scare you. It's here to wake you up. In this video, I'm going to explain why February Fard was marked, what actually happens spiritually on nights like this, who feels it the most, and most importantly, how to pass through it without losing momentum. Because the danger of this night is not what happens to you. It's what quietly gets delayed inside you. Stay with me. What you do with this awareness matters. To understand why February 5th is not a normal night, you have to understand how pressure is applied without confrontation. In the occult, we didn't always attack with chaos. Chaos alerts people. Chaos wakes them up. What we preferred were quiet nights, nights where nothing obvious happens, but something internal shifts. Nights like this are used to seal delay. Let me explain that clearly. During the day, people operate with logic, discipline, and momentum, but at night, defense is lower. The mind relaxes, the body rests, and the spirit becomes more receptive. That's not weakness, it's design. But that receptivity can be exploited if a person isn't aware. On nights like February 5th, the assignment is not fear, it's postponement. You may notice thoughts like, I'll deal with this tomorrow. I don't have the energy right now. Let me rest first, then I'll move forward. Those thoughts don't feel dark. They feel reasonable. And that's the danger. I watched this tactic used repeatedly on people who were on the edge of obedience, decision, or breakthrough. Nothing was stolen from them. Nothing dramatic happened. They simply paused, and that pause shifted timing. Spiritually, these nights are used to press gently on the will, not the emotions. The goal is to soften resolve just enough to delay action without triggering resistance. That's why sleep can feel strange on nights like this. Not nightmares, just restless sleep, heavy dreams, waking up tired without reason, or sleeping deeply but waking up foggy. That fog is intentional. We called it containment. Not stopping movement, just slowing it long enough to miss alignment. And here's something important you need to hear. If you felt unusually tired, unfocused, or inward on February 5th, it does not mean something bad happened to you. It means something was attempted. Attempts fail when awareness is present. In the next chapter, I'm going to explain who feels nights like this the most, why spiritually sensitive people notice it first, and why the pressure often hits those who least expect it. This is where you'll stop blaming yourself and start responding correctly. This is where many people misunderstand what they experienced, because the ones most affected by nights, like February 5th, are not the weakest. They are the closest to movement. In the occult, we learned very quickly that spiritual pressure does not target the careless. It targets the intentional. People who are drifting don't need to be slowed. People who are stagnant don't need containment. Pressure is applied where direction already exists. That's why spiritually sensitive people felt this night first. If you've been praying with clarity, if you've made quiet decisions recently, if you've started acting on things you delayed for a long time, if your year began with unusual focus or resolve, you were more noticeable. Sensitivity is not fragility, it's proximity. Proximity to change, proximity to alignment, proximity to execution. On nights like this, the pressure doesn't announce itself with fear. It comes as heaviness, tiredness, inward pull, or emotional flatness. You don't feel attacked, you feel unmotivated. And that's intentional. I remember being trained to watch for people who internalized pressure instead of resisting it. Those who thought, I must be tired, or maybe I'm just overwhelmed. That internalization kept them quiet long enough for timing to slip. The most dangerous outcome of this night is not exhaustion, it's self-interpretation. When people assume the pressure is coming from themselves, they adjust inward instead of standing firm. They rest when they should remain steady. They delay when they should continue. And that's all the night needs to accomplish. Here's something important. Many of you noticed that the pressure did not destroy your peace completely. You were heavy, but not hopeless. Slower, but not lost. That's a sign the night did not gain agreement. Pressure that isn't agreed with cannot settle. That's why some of you felt a sudden lift the next day without doing anything dramatic. The attempt passed because it failed to anchor. In the occult, we called nights like this tests of alignment, not to see if people would fall, but to see if they would pause. Those who kept moving quietly, without panic, without explanation, passed through untouched. In the next chapter, I'm going to explain what to do when nights like this appear again, how to shorten their impact, and how to protect momentum without fighting shadows. Because awareness is not enough. Response is what determines outcome. Stay with me. This is the part that matters most because nights like February 5th are not rare. They are seasonal and they return in different forms. What determines their impact is not how heavy they feel, but how you respond while they pass. In the occult, we learn something very precise. Pressure only succeeds when it changes behavior. Feelings were secondary. Atmosphere was secondary. What mattered was whether someone slowed, stopped, or postponed what they were already moving toward. So here is how believers pass through nights like this without losing ground. First, do not make decisions at night under pressure. This is critical. Nights like this are designed to influence will, not reason. Decisions made in heaviness often feel logical in the moment, but are rooted in fatigue, not wisdom. In the occult, we relied on night decisions, emails sent, conversations postponed, commitments quietly dropped. Waiting until morning alone breaks much of the assignment. Second, maintain ordinary obedience, not intense prayer, not warfare marathons. Ordinary obedience. If you normally pray briefly at night, pray briefly. If you normally read, read. If you normally rest, rest. The goal is consistency, not intensity. Pressure feeds on disruption. Consistency starves it. Third, do not narrate the night. This is subtle but powerful. The moment you start explaining the heaviness, something feels off. This night is strange. I feel spiritually attacked. You give the atmosphere a voice. In the occult, unnamed pressure had limited power, but narrated pressure gained attention. Silence with awareness is stronger than commentary. Fourth, protect your morning. This is where many people lose momentum without realizing it. Nights like this are meant to spill into the next day as fog. If you wake up and immediately interpret the heaviness as meaning, I'm tired, I lost focus, I need to slow down today, the night completes its assignment. A simple act of alignment in the morning, prayer, movement, routine, breaks the carryover. And here's the truth we never wanted believers to understand. These nights cannot follow you unless you carry them forward. Pressure has an expiration time. When believers refuse to adjust their pace, their posture, or their identity around the heaviness, the night passed cleanly, no residue, no loss, no delay. In the next chapter, I'm going to explain what happens after nights like February 5th, why many people experience sudden clarity or momentum afterward, and how to recognize the shift so you don't second guess it. Because these nights are not just tests, they are markers, and how you respond determines what opens next. This is the part most people miss, because once the heaviness lifts, they assume nothing happened. But in the occult, we watched what followed nights like February 5th very closely, because the night itself was never the destination, it was a threshold. When pressure fails to delay someone, the next phase opens quickly and often quietly. Here's what typically happens after a night like this. First, clarity returns suddenly, not gradually. Suddenly, you wake up and something that felt confusing now feels obvious. A decision you've been circling becomes clear. Motivation returns without force. That snap back is not emotional, it's positional. Alignment reasserts itself once pressure loses permission. Second, momentum accelerates. Things that were moving slowly pick up pace. Conversations resolve. Opportunities surface. Tasks that felt heavy feel neutral again. In the occult, this is what frustrated us most. A failed delay often resulted in faster movement than before. Pressure that doesn't land rebounds. Third, discernment sharpens. After nights like this, people often become more aware, not paranoid, but precise. You notice what drains you. You recognize what matters. You stop tolerating unnecessary delay. That sharpening is a byproduct of resistance without fear. This is why darkness prefers people to never notice nights like this. Awareness strengthens the next step. But here's the warning you need to hear. The greatest risk after the night passes is self-doubt. People start asking, was that just in my head? Am I overthinking this? Nothing bad happened, so maybe it didn't matter. That doubt minimizes the victory. In the occult, minimizing resistance was almost as useful as stopping it. If someone dismissed what they overcame, they didn't guard the next threshold. So hear this clearly. If you passed through February 5th without changing your pace, if you felt the heaviness but didn't let it decide for you, if you kept moving quietly, consistently, without drama, you didn't just survive the night, you cleared it. And when a threshold is cleared, something opens, whether you label it or not. So don't rush, don't overanalyze, don't slow down unnecessarily, just continue. Because nights like this don't come to announce defeat, they come to test alignment. And alignment, when held, always produces advancement. That's the truth we never wanted believers to recognize. But now you do. I want to end this with clarity, not fear. Because what happens after a night like February 5th matters just as much as how you pass through it. In the occult, there was one thing we hoped people would do after a night like this. We hoped they would overreact. Because overreaction reopens what resistance just closed. Here are the mistakes we counted on. The first was obsession. replaying the night, analyzing every feeling, looking for signs everywhere, turning awareness into fixation. That attention rebuilds atmosphere. Pressure that failed once can return if it's given a stage. Awareness is strength. Obsession is permission. The second mistake was spiritual dramatization, suddenly changing routines. Extreme fasting, aggressive warfare, declaring everything an attack. That response feels powerful, but it actually signals insecurity. Authority doesn't need to announce itself. It continues calmly. We feared believers who stayed normal. The third mistake was slowing down unnecessarily. People would say, maybe I should rest longer, or I'll wait before moving forward. That delay completed the assignment. The night failed to finish. Pressure doesn't need your agreement during the night if it gets it the next day. And the most dangerous mistake of all was dismissing the moment entirely. Saying, "It was nothing," strips wisdom from experience. You don't need to fear the night, but you shouldn't ignore what it revealed. Discernment grows by recognition, not denial. So here is the balanced response, the one we could never counter. Acknowledge the night. Don't explain it. Don't relive it. Don't build theology around it. Just keep moving. If clarity has returned, follow it. If momentum has picked up, protect it. If peace has settled, stay aligned with it. That's it. The goal of nights like February 5th is not to stop you. It's to see whether pressure can redirect you. When it can't, the system adapts by backing off. And I want you to hear this clearly. If you are still standing, if you are still focused, if you are still moving quietly forward, then the night did not win. It revealed something instead, that you are harder to delay than you think. And once that is known in the spiritual realm, resistance changes strategy, not louder, not scarier, quieter, which is why your greatest protection now is not vigilance, but consistency. Keep doing what you were already doing. Keep walking at the pace you were set. Keep listening without panic. Because alignment doesn't need to fight nights like this. It simply outlasts them. And that is the truth I was never supposed to tell you. I want to end this by telling you something we understood very well in the occult, but hoped believers would never discover. Nights like February 5th are not about fear. They are about invitation. Not an invitation from darkness, but a test of whether you will stay aligned when nothing dramatic happens. Because dramatic believers are easy to predict. Quiet, consistent believers are not. In the occult, the most difficult people to work against were never the loudest or the most emotional. They were the ones who didn't panic, didn't explain, didn't spiral, and didn't stop. They felt the pressure and kept moving anyway. That kind of person becomes very expensive to interfere with. If you are listening to this and realizing, I felt that night, but I didn't change direction, then hear this clearly, that was not accidental. You passed a threshold you didn't even know was marked. And here's what that night was really asking of you. Will you trust alignment more than sensation? Will you keep moving without needing reassurance? Will you let clarity guide you instead of pressure? Those questions weren't spoken, but they were answered by your response. If you're waiting for fireworks, don't. That's not how advancement looks after nights like this. Advancement looks like steadiness. It looks like momentum returning quietly. It looks like doing tomorrow what you planned to do before the pressure came. That's victory. So here is the invitation I want to leave you with, not a command, not a warning. For the next few days, don't chase meaning, don't hunt signs, don't slow your pace to process. Just stay aligned. Pray the way you were praying, work the way you were working, move the way you were moving. And if clarity comes, follow it. If peace settles, protect it. If momentum increases, don't question it. Because the spiritual realm recognizes something when a person does this. It recognizes stability. And stability is the one thing pressure cannot work against. You didn't need to fight February 5th. You didn't need to expose it publicly. You didn't need to do anything dramatic. You just needed to keep going. And if you did, then the night didn't mark you. You marked it. That's the truth I wasn't meant to share. I want to seal this message the right way, because understanding without practice fades, and awareness without direction can quietly slip back into old patterns. In the occult, after nights like February 5th, we watched one final thing, whether people stabilized or scattered. Scattering is subtle. It looks like changing too much at once, overcorrecting, second guessing what was already working, trying to do more, to protect what doesn't need protecting. Stability, on the other hand, looks almost boring. And that's why it's powerful. Here is how you seal what you passed without fear, superstition, or spiritual anxiety. First, anchor to rhythm, not reaction. Keep your ordinary prayer times. Keep your routines. Keep your pace. Don't add pressure to prove you're alert. Alignment is maintained by rhythm, not intensity. Second, let clarity lead, not curiosity. If something is clear, act on it. If something is unclear, don't force interpretation. Curiosity wants answers immediately. Authority waits without drifting. Third, guard your language, not obsessively, intentionally. Speak from position, not from sensation. Avoid narrating heaviness or speculating about pressure. Words should describe direction, not resistance. Fourth, rest without retreating. Rest is allowed. Retreat is not required. There is a difference between restoring strength and stepping back from purpose. Rest that keeps alignment strengthens momentum. And finally, don't mark yourself as someone who went through something. That identity is subtle and it weakens confidence. You didn't go through something. You continued through something. That distinction matters. Here's what we knew, and what I want you to know now. Once someone demonstrates they won't change direction under quiet pressure, future attempts become less frequent and less effective. The system doesn't waste effort where it doesn't work. That's why things feel calmer now. That's why clarity feels closer. That's why momentum feels easier to protect. Not because the world changed, because your response was registered. So don't look back at February 5th as a threat. Look at it as a checkpoint you crossed. And don't wait for the next night to do better. You already did what was required. Just keep going, because alignment doesn't need constant defense. It needs consistency. And consistency is the one language pressure never learned how to speak. That's the seal. I want to leave you with this final truth, because it's the one thing people always expect to feel, but rarely recognize when it actually happens. After nights like February 5th, there is no dramatic sign that it's over. No announcement, no emotional surge, no sudden spiritual fireworks. Instead, there is something much quieter. Normality returns, and that's the confirmation. In the occult, we knew an attempt had fully failed when people stopped talking about it, not because they were unaware, but because it no longer mattered. Their focus returned to what they were already building. Their attention moved forward. Their energy stabilized. That's when we knew access was gone. You'll know this season has passed wind. You stop checking your internal state constantly. You wake up without analyzing how you feel. You move through your day without needing reassurance. Decisions feel simpler, not heavier. Prayer feels natural again, not forced. That quiet return to steadiness is not apathy. It's authority settled into place. Many people mistake that calm for spiritual boredom and try to manufacture intensity again. Don't do that. Intensity is not the goal. Stability is. If you feel less emotional than before, but more focused, that's not loss. If things feel ordinary, but clearer, that's not failure. If you're not thinking about the night anymore, that's not denial. That's victory. The system we used depended on reaction. It depended on people staying inward, reflective, uncertain. The moment someone re-engaged with life without explanation, we moved on. And I want you to hear this clearly because it's freeing. You don't need to maintain awareness forever. You don't need to stay alert. You don't need to keep guarding against something that has already passed. Just stay aligned with what's in front of you. That's how you know it's done. Not because you feel powerful, but because you feel unbothered. And unbothered alignment is the one state darkness never learned how to interrupt. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I'm just okay again, that's it. That's the confirmation. You didn't lose anything. You didn't miss anything. You didn't fall behind. You kept going. And that is the outcome we never wanted believers to reach, but could never stop once they did. This is where you are now. Stay there. I want to end this where it truly belongs, not with warning, not with fear, but with clarity. Messages like this don't reach people who are drifting. They don't land on those who are disengaged. In the occult, we understood something very clearly. Awareness only activates where alignment already exists. If you're still listening, it's not because February 5th was dramatic. It's because you sensed something subtle and you didn't ignore it. That matters. The truth is, nights like that are not meant to define your year. They're meant to reveal your posture. They quietly ask one question: will you keep moving without needing an explanation? And you answered, not with words, not with emotion, with continuation. That's why this message isn't calling you to do more. It's calling you to do less explaining, less monitoring, less narrating, less self-checking, because the strongest position you can hold now is forward focus. In the occult, the most frustrating believers were never the most spiritual. They were the most stable. They didn't chase meaning. They didn't dramatize pressure. They didn't build identity around what they felt. They just stayed aligned. And alignment, once demonstrated, changes how the spiritual realm responds. Not immediately, not emotionally, but structurally. Pressure recalibrates, resistance reroutes, access narrows. That's why things feel quieter now. Not empty, not dull, just steady. So here is the final instruction, not a command, not a ritual. Live like nothing needs explaining. Pray as you were praying. Work as you were working. Decide as you were deciding. If clarity comes, follow it. If peace settles, protect it. If momentum increases, don't question it. Because February 5th didn't come to stop you. It came to measure you. And the fact that you're here, calm, present, moving forward, means the measurement was taken and passed. That's the truth I was never meant to share. Now let it rest and keep going.